Hello, writers. Come write with me. My name is Michaela Greenwood. I create worlds for mind adventures. Welcome to my channel, Write with Michaela. I'm very glad to have you join me on my channel, so don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell so you can go on this journey with me. Today, we're going to discuss a few terms or ideas or concepts. Our first term is heinous. Heinous as an adjective describes acts, crimes, or acts of violence, particularly crimes that are shockingly evil, wicked, or reprehensible. It represents a high level of hatefulness and immorality. Some synonyms are atrocious, monstrous, abhorrent, wicked, flagitious, odious, reprehensible, or despicable. Now, a few weeks ago, in this season 5, episode 9, we discussed one of those synonyms, and that was atrocious. So, if I split hairs here, I would focus on the hatefulness. Now, I talked about Brian Walsh and Brendan Banfield and the acts they did as atrocious, but I don't know if they hated their wives or if they were just selfish, self-preserving, or something else. I believe they both testified to loving their wives. I'm not sure. However, the Nazis hated the Jews. They killed the Jews in atrocious ways because they hated them. So that made the acts heinous. People can do vile and atrocious acts with hatefulness or indifference. The hatefulness usually fills a person so much that he or she no longer sees right from wrong, right? If he or she hates a person or people so much so to commit atrocious acts, then they feel that the other person should not exist. And the existence of the person or people is just an injustice. They're breathing, it's wrong. They need to die. Now, there is usually a little reasoning with him. There is usually little reasoning with him or her about this. It's deep set, it's brainwashed, it's ingrained, whatever you want to say. You can't tell somebody like the Nazis and the Jews is like, well, but they're not hurting you. They're not doing anything against you. Why do you hate? I hate them. They don't belong. It just, there's no, they have the tunnel vision, right? They're not going to reason with you. They're not going to see a different perspective. So there's little to no reasoning with any person about this. Now, do we hate? Yes, sometimes. A criminal breaks in and shoots a loved one. You hate the criminal. Do you then attack the criminal and pull off his toenails and fingernails and then break each finger and toe and leg before you open his guts and wrench his guts out and finally chop off his head? Probably not. Unless you're a vigilante or something. Now, I believe that hate and anger are part of the grieving process, like the 12 steps. I don't know where it goes, but I'm pretty sure that hate and anger are part of the grieving process. But many people have family and friends and therapists that help them move through that grief. Whether you go through the grieving process, the 12 steps, or you just kind of naturally evolve through it, you go through that process. Now, the hatefulness to commit crimes could be that the person never moved through the stages of grief, or it could be that society or the government or a religion brainwashed him or her. And yes, government and society can brainwash you, not just religions. Society, government, or religion brainwashed him or her to hate a person or hate a group since birth. So we'll side trip a little bit. A child is born, they're growing up, and you're teaching them their colors. The sky is blue, the grass is green. The sky's not always blue. Sometimes it's gray. But what if you told the child the opposite? The sky is green, the grass is blue. Well, that's all he knows. He or she, the little child doesn't have the capacity to evaluate whether or not what you told them is true. So you would be teaching them this. 2 + 2 is 5. Grass is blue. Sky is green. Mother, father, whatever you decide to teach them. That's what they know. So if they're growing up and you're teaching them that Jews are bad, Jews are evil, Jews shouldn't breathe, well, that child doesn't have any ability to discern whether that's true, whether that's logical, whether that's any other thing. That's just what they know. So brainwashing is powerful. Brainwashing is done by cults and governments and religions and families from a very, very, very young age, since before some of these kids can talk. So you're not going to reason with them. You, as the writer, then need to know if the character with the hatefulness wants to just end a person or people, or he or she wants the person or people to suffer. But either way, the hatefulness pushes an atrocious act to a heinous one. Right? So you could just hate them and want them off the earth. You could want them to suffer as much as you feel you're suffering. Whatever. But the hatefulness pushes an atrocious act to a heinous one. And heinous is our term today. So you can have all kinds of vile things in your story, but if you want it to be heinous, there needs to be that hateful emotion there. And you as the writer need to decide that. So leave a comment on a character in a show, book, or movie that committed heinous acts because a violent hate in his or her heart. Our next term is despicable. Despicable as an adjective describes someone or something extremely unpleasant, vile, or morally reprehensible, often invoking strong feelings of disgust, scorn, or contempt, because it signifies behavior that is beyond contempt. Some synonyms are contemptible, vile, mean, base, detestable, execrable, or odious. Now let's get some degrees or levels here. So a burglar steals a loaf of bread from a convenience store. That's bad. It's wrong. It's immoral. Instead, let's say a burglar steals the last piece of bread from a poor, hungry child. That's despicable. Because, yeah, it's bad. Yeah, it's wrong. Yeah, it's moral. But it's a step up. Now, as you can see with these examples, stealing is wrong, both cases. But one act is just wrong, stealing from the convenience store. However, the second act amped up the evilness or the vileness of the act, so the act is despicable. As writers, we can have characters that commit acts of violence, defense, but there is another level to make those acts despicable. Now, I am listening to Audible book Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I finished that one. But anyway, the main character, Violet, defends herself and her enemy is unconscious at her feet. Her dragon advises her to finish him off. She feels killing in battle is one thing, but killing somebody while he or she is defenseless is despicable, and something she decides not to do. Her dragon says that the enemy would not be so kind. So, you knocked him unconscious. Do you slit his throat or do you just walk away? Leave a comment on if you would have had Violet kill the fellow student or not. If you were writing this story, Violet's the main character, the main protagonist, would you have had her kill that other student or not? Leave a comment on on a character in a show, book, or movie that commits despicable acts. Our next term is anodyne. Anodyne as an adjective refers to something that is inoffensive, bland, or unlikely to cause disagreement. Often describing innocuous content, speech, or actions. As a noun, it refers to a pain-relieving medicine or something that soothes distress. It frequently implies a dull, boring, or sanitized quality, such as elevator music or a carefully neutral statement. Synonyms for the adjective are innocuous, unobjectable, dull, insipid, bland, neutral, beige, tame, and unremarkable. Synonyms for the noun are analgesic, painkiller, sedative, balm, palliative, and remedy. Now, this word is derived from Greek. Anodynous means without pain. So, the an part, an, means without, and odyne is the pain in Greek. Now, the first thing I thought about with the noun definition of something that soothes distress is the Magical Cures series by Tanya Capps. June, the main character, was always reaching for a ding-dong or a June's Gem. June's Gem was a copycat of the ding-dong. And I myself probably gained 10 pounds reading those books just by reading about eating all those and not actually eating them. But any time June was stressed, she was reaching for the treat. Or other people were, you're stressed. They would just hand it to her. Did Tanya Capps use anodyne in her books? No. That's what the treats were for June. Term wasn't used, but the concept is there. This dulls or reduces stress for June. In our stories, sometimes a character doesn't want another character to get offended or take the things the wrong way, so he or she will give an anodyne statement, that neutral statement. Sometimes we can give a rest to our readers, but having a child or a small animal commit an anodyne act, also known as comic relief, so you can give rest to your readers. Also, in our stories, if our characters are hurt tremendously or have a lot of pain and don't receive an anodyne, he or she might lose consciousness because he or she can't deal with the pain. Like I said, you don't have to have the term, just have the concept. Leave a comment on an anodyne in your life. What soothes you and dulls your pain? One of my favorites is acupuncture. I feel really good after a session in the acupuncturist. My arm, this arm is sore. I strained it and it's not fixing, but I feel better after the acupuncture. So what is your anodyne? What soothes you or dulls your pain or helps you to relax? Our last term today is recidivism. Recidivism as a noun is the tendency of a convicted criminal to reoffend, relapse into criminal behavior or return to incarceration after release. Now, there is a comedy with Nick Nolte playing Lucas. And Nick Nolte, or Lucas, was a criminal who is released. He's served his time, he's released. And the cop, Detective Dugan, who is played by James Earl Jones, and if y'all don't know already, I love his voice. Anyway, Detective Dugan is talking to another cop about how long they think, I didn't edit this right, but how long they think it will be until Lucas commits another crime. Dugan picks Lucas up as he's released from prison and gives him a ride to a bank. So, because they were given a check in the movie, I don't know if this is in real life. The jail gives them a check for the work that they did while they were in prison. So, Dugan gives Lucas the ride so he can deposit his check from prison time. Shortly after, a bank robbery is reported at the same bank where Dugan dropped off Lucas. And the comedy begins. This is a comedy, and it's very funny. I enjoyed this. Now, as writers, we know that Dugan was thinking of recidivism and the rate that criminals are repeat offenders. But the writers of Three Fugitives, that's the name of the movie, he flipped that on its head. Lucas was not robbing the bank. He was trying to open an account and deposit the check when someone else came in to rob the bank. But things kind of go south. And so the bank robber kidnaps Lucas to escape. So the writer flipped things. We as writers can flip it, like in this comedy, which I think Google said was a 1989 film. Or we can have people who get out, but everyone expects the recidivism, and therefore they don't trust this character. They're just kind of keeping an extra eye on the character. I think that's probably an idiom, keeping an extra eye. So you don't trust this character. Maybe they're brilliant at something and you need their skills, but you don't trust them, so you're always watching them. Then when plans go wrong, the person who was previously a prisoner or in prison, previously a prisoner, will have many fingers pointed at him or her, even if they did nothing for things to fall apart. Actually, I'm going to take a side trip too, because sometimes if somebody wants to do something bad, but they're afraid they're going to get caught, if somebody's released from prison and they know that person will be pointed at and they'll have more time to cover up their trail, they might be more inclined to commit their crime when the prisoner is released, because everybody will be pointing fingers at the prisoner. Anyway, if you write murder mysteries, and a murderer served his time and got out of jail and moved back home, got a job, and then a murder happened in the town, most everyone would suspect the previous murderer. Now, the detectives might suspect a spouse or a friend or next of kin, but the townspeople will suspect the previous convicted criminal, at least until an arrest. Why? Because we know recidivism happens. We have statistics about it. We know criminals get out and commit more crimes at a high or higher rate. With that in mind, how do other characters treat this character that got out? Right? And we have to think about, as writers, we have to think about these things. Would it have been normal and natural for Dugan to think Lucas was not participating in the bank robbery when Dugan knew Lucas's history, knew his history, and knew where he was? As humans, we jump to conclusions all the time. And this conclusion was completely logical for Dugan. You gotta watch the movie. It's so hilarious. Because they get the thing. So they automatically think that Dugan has robbed this bank that they dropped him off at. And Dugan is wondering what people are going to think about him since he dropped him off at the bank. And then the bank robber kidnaps Lucas. So you kind of get the idea of the setup there. As writers, we can add another layer to this. Right? What if the criminal was not the person that did the crime, and the police or others framed him or her, or had the crime pinned on him or her? So we've got an innocent person that people call a criminal. Then when this person is released as a previous criminal or a criminal, people will definitely feel this person did the crime they served the time for, and will be quick to point fingers with the next crime. Right? So you can go all kinds of ways with that. As a society, we try to rehabilitate criminals by housing them with other criminals. Some criminals commit heinous crimes, and that scares us normal citizens. So it is hard to find upstanding citizens to aid in rehabilitation. So we're left with recidivism. Now, I believe that is one reason why Big Brothers and Big Sisters was created, to get strong role models in the lives of children before they commit a crime, and hopefully prevent them from going down that path at all. Now, feel free to tell me I'm wrong and to tell me why Ernest Coulter originally formed the organization. Now, leave a comment on recidivism in your city. Just list the city and the percentage if you know. Side note, because in some areas felonies are now misdemeanors, then that affects all types of percentages and statistics. It is one way in which officials can manipulate the number. Now, statisticians can manipulate all kinds of numbers, but this is one way that the officials can aid and help that manipulation of numbers. So those type of laws will also reduce published recidivism rates. Okay, so we're writers. Imagine the headlines that say, released serial killer has been rehabilitated. So now instead of first-degree murder, he only commits manslaughter. If I read that headline, I would be shocked. And I would be in disbelief, because people are still dying at the serial killer's hands. It's just not the same level of crime. Now it's, instead of a murder, it's a misdemeanor or some manslaughter. So that's just ridiculous. But the manslaughter would probably have less penalty and less charges, less time in prison, all those kinds of things. Anyway, don't forget your comment on recidivism in your city if you know that number. Okay, writers, we don't have a writing prompt today. So go write on your chapters. Make sure to meet your writing goal. Leave a comment on what your daily goal or your daily average goal is and how well you've kept it so far this year. I wrote this on April 22nd and today's April 24th. And so far this year, my average is around 1,200 words per day. I'm meeting my goal with a little room to spare. If you're not meeting your goal, don't give up. Just renew your commitment. Set up your writing time. Set up your writing space. Take care of your needs and your dreams. Now, join me Wednesday for our book club discussion on 1984. The Eye of the Government is watching you. Join me Friday for Elementals. Join me Tuesday for your cave stories. Don't forget to visit my website bymckella.com, read some character bios, and send your writings and chapters to writewithmckella@gmail.com. And no spaces and add the @gmail. If you like, subscribe and hit the bell notification. Then we will continue to write together and other people will have a higher chance of finding this video and this channel since your likes will push the video out to a greater audience. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate your participation. If you know someone who would like this video, please share it with them. This is McKella with Write with McKella. Bye for now.